Beyond Lumina, Episode 14, Meetings. Excuse me, High Leader Drop. The Ascendancy leader once more approached Drop after discussing the situation with his commander, who then sent out a party to find the other occupants of the crashed escape pod. You again, Drop snarled. What is it? I'm sorry, sir, the subordinate officer started. But High Master Rend wants to speak with you and the rest of your crew, if you would follow me, sir. Drop's face went pale. He couldn't even imagine what someone like High Master Rend was doing here, and what he wanted with Drop. He cleared his throat and answered, trying to sound composed, to little avail. Well, then take us to him already. Entering the large facility, the group walked directly forward, through several sets of doors, and then came to one final set that opened into a massive chamber. Seated in the middle of the room was a large man of direct ascendancy blood, a mirror, as others called them. The other leader quickly exited and left Drop and his subordinates to High Master Rend, one of the top leaders of the entire Royal Ascendancy. Only one of pure mere blood could attain the rank of High Master in the Royal Ascendancy. Drop himself was a Mir, but he was only about 2/3 Mir, and so while he was held in high regard by the non-Mir races of the Ascendancy, he was looked down upon by those of more pure blood, especially someone like a High Master. High Officer Drop, Rend's deep voice boomed through the cavernous hall, sending a primordial fear through each of the Ascendancy soldiers in his presence. What are you doing here, on this pre-space age planet? You have done the unthinkable. Drop somehow found the strength to answer. Hi, Master, he stammered. Please, we were only following orders when our ship was hijacked by those pirates. Forgive me for not being able to fend them off. You fool! High Master Rend yelled, shaking the entire room. Not only have you come here, you have led enemies here who now know of our secret. I don't care about your excuses nor your orders. None of you can be allowed to live. I will remove the stain of such useless liabilities from the face of the Ascendancy. Nobody that comes here uninvited may leave. Now go and perish. Zario woke up, bound hand and foot by Aetherium cuffs. Lumina, I guess the Ascendancy got me, he thought. So much for lecturing Mecha and the others. It's like I'm going to be the first one to go. That is, if they're still alive. I guess I shouldn't think like that. It's no use giving up. If I'm going to go down either way, I'll at least make them pay. I just need a chance to do something big. Just then, the door to his prison opened. Several others were thrown in with him. Once he could make out who it was, he was startled. What? It's you? It was Drop and his subordinates. Look, it's one of the Fireblade pirates, said one of the lower-ranking soldiers. Looking closer, Drop suddenly recognized him. No, Drop said, eyeing Zario. That is no pirate, you blind and ignorant fools. That is Zario Launer, one of the fugitives we've been searching for. Then he smiled wryly. We may just survive this yet, my comrades. Sergeant, come in, came a voice over a fighter's comms. Yes, Commander Ravina, replied Master Sergeant Maloon of the Free World Alliance, as she and Corporal Dodds flew through deep space. Give me an update, Sergeant Major Ravina commanded. Sir, his subordinate began. We are on our way through the final sector, approaching Sergeant Reese's last known coordinates. It shouldn't be much longer before we touch down. I'll inform you when we've reached the local space of Inagon. Good, Ravina replied. But remember, Sergeant, and this is of the greatest importance. You must not be seen by anyone, except for Sergeant Reese. Don't let her companions know you are there. And do not let anyone else on the planet know of your presence either. If you do, I cannot guarantee your safety, or the mission's ultimate success. Do not fail me. I won't fail you, Commander. You can count on me, Mulloon replied confidently. Her commander cut communications. Then she addressed her own subordinate. Alright, you heard the commander. It's up to us to get this operation under control. We don't have any room for mistakes. We secure a zone near Sergeant Reese's location, then I go in alone and find her. The plasma blaster shot rang out in the small escape pod, temporarily deafening everyone within. Artis opened his eyes to see that the bound Ascendancy soldier had shot and incapacitated his ally, allowing the Kostians to quickly seize both enemies when they had come to their senses, and they were once more safe for the time being. The Ascendancy soldier that decided to remain with them had saved Artis's life, and those of the other Kostians, and while Artis himself had made a valiant effort to do the same, he once more felt as though he had come up short, fighting through a blinding fear the entire time, again only getting lucky enough to connect with one of the enemy soldiers with the plasma blade he shakily drew. Well now, Photoglass began speaking to the Ascendancy soldier that helped them. Grim, was it? We are all in your debt for saving us. It's alright, the turncoat soldier, named Grim, replied timidly. I couldn't go back to the Ascendancy anyway. I was probably already pegged for execution for setting foot here, if not for remaining with you in the first place. Well, in any case, Klaus responded, it seems those shackles are unnecessary. He moved toward Grim to free him, but the soldier pulled away. No, that's okay, Grim said, slightly shaken. I'll just wait until one of the pirates returns first to unlock me, if you don't mind. He would rather not have Zario blasting him upon arrival if he saw that he was free. I understand, Glass said. At least know that we will advocate on your behalf, and we thank you deeply for your help. I can tell you are good at heart. I don't know about that, Grim replied. Don't forget, I'm the one who helped take you all from your home. I'm the one who brought along that kid in the first place. He didn't look up to meet the gaze of the voter. Well, you're also the one who just saved his life. That's a nice way to make up for it, I would say. And what about you, Artis? Artis was barely even paying attention. He was vaguely aware that the soldier that stayed was the same one that chose to capture him, but at this point he didn't care either way. Oh yeah, thank you for that, sir. The boy replied half-heartedly, still wrapped up in his own warring thoughts. It wasn't long, however, before their choice to leave Grim bound was a moot one, as native warriors of Inagon suddenly surrounded the escape pod. None of those within were quick enough to react, nor had the courage to do so. One of the natives then came through the largest of the openings, made by the Ascendancy soldiers a moment ago, and spoke to the group in broken common. You come with us. Yes, of course, Photoglass answered hesitantly, astonished at the native's speech. Come, everyone, let's go with them. No need to cause any commotion. He turned to Artis with the keys to the cuffs. Here, unlock our new friend. No, the native man stopped them abruptly. It stays on. Right, my mistake, Glass amended. Let's get going then. The cuffs were refashioned around both of Grim's wrists, and they were all escorted out of the pod, along with the other two captured Ascendancy soldiers. Klaus waited for the rest to go before finally following behind, with the one who seemed to be the leader of the natives group, the one that addressed them. What are you going to do with us? Klaus asked. Take you to Chief, replied the native. How can I know what you say is true? Sergeant Benta asked the strange soldier in front of him, claiming to be a man named Jay of the Ravinian military. Benta had never even seen a Ravinian soldier before, and so didn't have the slightest clue what to expect. Other than the code that has gotten us this far, Jay started, I can't give you much, but I have a message signed by your Prime Minister. However, I must deliver it only to a General Gaster. Can you get me in contact with him secretly? Then you'll know all you need to know. At least, your commanders will, the ones that can be trusted. Sergeant Benta was shaken by much of what this soldier, Jay, had to say. He had to choose quickly whether or not he would trust this stranger, and it seemed there was more than he could know riding on what he chose to do. He did know General Gaster, as did everyone on Sor, and even Tan in other Federation worlds. A well-decorated leader of the Tansorian Federation, he was the head of the military on Sor. Benta trusted that he could take care of whatever situation was stirring here. Okay, Benta finally agreed. I can bring him to you. Wait here, and I'll return shortly with the general. You'd better be speaking the truth, or you may regret it. Don't worry, none of us will regret this, I promise you, Jay replied. After leaving, Voss asked Benta, Do you really think we can trust him, Sergeant? We really don't have much choice, his superior replied. And in any case, the general is the best one suited to handle this. He will know what to do. And the fact that they want to see him of all people leads me to believe they aren't a threat. Otherwise, they wouldn't want to come face to face with our strongest warrior. Soon, Benta and Kvas returned with General Gaster, a tall and gruff middle-aged man. He was one of the Federation's most seasoned warriors. Benta and Kvas waited outside. You are the one called Jay? The general asked when he arrived. And where is this letter from the Prime Minister that you have for me? General, Jay began. I'm glad we could make contact with you. Here. Jay handed him the letter. I think this will explain everything you need to know for now. Gaster took the letter while still sizing up Jay, then immediately tore open the Prime Minister's seal and beheld his signature at the bottom. There was no question it was from the Prime Minister. He read the letter, which was not very long, but he had to read it twice over because it was so shocking. I cannot believe it, yet the Prime Minister himself has said it, the general finally responded. I know, Jay replied. Nobody could have been prepared for something like this, but I suspect you will follow your leader's orders. Of course, General Gaster didn't hesitate to answer. When do we leave? As soon as you and a crew you trust can be ready, Jay said. Be sure nobody else knows what's going on. In fact, I wouldn't tell the crew you bring along all the details either. Just what they need to know. When he left the room, Gaster stopped and stared a moment at Sergeant Benta and Private Kvas, still standing outside the doorway. You two, he finally said. You're coming along with me to see the Prime Minister. After washing all the grime of their journeys off in the simple yet refreshing Inagonian showers, Aezic and Vala waited together in a well-furnished room, where they were also treated to a fine meal of native meats and vegetables. It was obvious they weren't seen as enemies. However, Aezic still couldn't be sure, besides that, where they stood with the native people. He had been pondering the words of the chief for a while, when finally he came to the room as he said he would. My apologies for making you wait, but I expect you'll find our hospitality more than compensated for my delay, the chief said. Aezic was impressed with the chief's eloquent use of the common tongue, when it didn't seem like there were many others there that could speak it at all, or perhaps just didn't wish to do so. It was no problem, and yes, thank you for everything you've provided. It's been a while since we've had such a comfortable place to rest. I'm glad to hear it, the chief replied. I have not come just for idle chat, however. I must know more about who you and your companions are, where you come from, and what you're now doing here on my world. Of course, Aezic answered. You seem to be aware enough of things outside your world that it won't hurt to tell you anything. Have you heard of the Free World Alliance? I have not, the chief replied. Nor have I heard of the 3 major powers you mentioned earlier. Who are these powers, and why has yours come here? Unfortunately, there is a lot to explain, so please bear with me, Aezic started. He told the chief, named Oshu, that he was an ex-military officer who was betrayed by the Alliance, and then after fleeing Alliance space, another of the three powers, the Royal Ascendancy, pursued them, and they eventually found themselves crash-landed on Inagon. He told the chief everything he thought he needed to know if the Inagonians were truly a people untainted by the major powers' influence. The chief sat and thought for a moment, then said, "There is one thing I do not understand. Where is the Supreme Order in all of this? If they are not one of these three major powers, then what are they?" "I have never heard of something called the Supreme Order," Aezic answered, feeling some concern. That was the same question he himself had been asking since their first meeting. "What do you know of this order?" "The Supreme Order," the chief began, "are the ones who first came from the outer worlds to ours, and they are the only ones we have known. They came nearly 2 cycles ago, and have taken the large island near here as their own. In fact, it is the coast of one of the largest continents in our world. They've completely changed the landscape in that short time, digging vast tunnels through the mountains found there. The people that live there have accepted them as the new rulers of the world. Few fight back, while most of the other nations, such as ours, still remain slightly free by paying them whatever tithes they ask of each. Our island, for instance, provides them with much food and also with wood from our vast forest. They send a crew to pick up the tithe every 3 rotations. It's left our people with less than half of what we would normally have, and a dwindling number of trees which, as you can see, we call our homes. I've discussed and deliberated much with the leaders of the order placed here, and they have never mentioned any of these other powers before, nor any other power outside of themselves." Aezic had his suspicions of who this Supreme Order could really be. Most likely the Royal Ascendancy's attempt to disguise themselves and their illegal operations on this supposedly pre-space planet. But, Aezic thought further, if war has indeed broken out between the three powers, there are no more inner political laws. There's no telling what Lumina will look like once this conflict ends. If this conflict ends. As they talked, Aezic couldn't help but think the chief was much like himself, and he had a feeling Oshu had the same thought. But, while they were exchanging information, there came a knock at the door, and a native guardsman entered. He spoke shortly with the chief, who then turned to Aezic and Vala with a quite different expression than he had a moment before. "Pardon me, but I must go for just a moment." He then exited with the guard and shut the door. Aezic and Vala exchanged concerned glances, but it really was only about a minute before Chief Oshu returned, now looking decidedly more angry. "It seemed to me, man of Ravina, that you were a man of integrity, but now I see I was wrong to confide in you. Your comrades have been brought here, and your lies have been uncovered. I should have known the Supreme Order would employ any underhanded tactics available to them to gain information. Now, due to your espionage, you will all be executed." "Guards! Guards!" Drop shouted over and over from the cell he and his comrades shared with Zario at the main base of the Ascendancy on Inagon. "You must let me speak with the High Master at once. This is a wanted man with us in here. I must give the High Masters all the details." After a while, one of the guards returned and unlocked the cell. "It's about time," Drop screeched. "The High Master will see both of you," the guard said. Both Zario and Drop were restrained and led out of the prison, through the main facility, and into the officers' quarters. Finally, they came to the large room at the end, where High Master Rend awaited them. This was, however, the first time Zario was brought the direction they came, and what he saw was beyond anything he could have imagined, and filled him with fear. "This is crazy. This can't be real," he thought. "There's no way this is real." He broke out in a cold sweat. They reached the large doors, and the guards ushered them through to High Master Rend. All right, you worm. What is it that you have been yammering about? He asked Drop.
Please, High Master, Drop started. Let me go and I will explain everything, including who this wanted man and his companions are.
He pointed at Zario, who was doing his best to look composed, but thoughts of what he just saw kept him on edge. You dare to make demands of me? The High Master boomed. You will tell me what you know, now, and I will consider not killing you where you stand. Drop's face went pale.
Of course, High Master, he sputtered. This man is named Zario Launer, and he is an ally of one Lieutenant Aezic Zin of the Free World Alliance.
He continued, pointing an accusatory finger at Zario.
This man and his allies, you may know, are wanted by both the Free World Alliance and ourselves. Master Omen sent me to personally deal with this matter when they arrived on Castia, where the natives then broke their long-standing vow with us, causing further harm to our cause. It seems they then posed as pirates and were able to hijack our frigate due to our small crew on that mission, which was transporting the guilty Castian to Evroth. When Master Omen found the hijacked ship, he naturally attempted to destroy it, but they were able to escape, with all of us unconscious, mind you, in the pod, finally crash landing us all here on Inagon. Master Omen will, of course, corroborate my story.
Is that everything you have to report, High Officer Drop? Rend asked without a hint of emotion.
Yes, I believe so,
Drop replied with some relief.
You already know everything that happened after that. Ah!
Drop fell dead next to Zario. A pistol blast fired right through his body, even though he was still wearing his military-grade synth plate. Zario stared at Drop's body in shock, then back to the High Master, who was staring back at him. Interesting, the High Master said to Zario, now placing the pistol into a compartment in the arm of his throne-like seat. You seem to know what this is. Launer, was it? That is also interesting. Rend acted as though he was trying to recall something. Now, didn't I just hear that name some other place? He smiled and glared at Zario. It's finally time. We're about to leave deep space. Got it. Scanners are on. Let's hope they're advanced enough to actually detect something. A rudimentary and battered ship entered the local space of Ravina. Everything there seemed normal. The Free World Alliance's presence in orbit also seemed to be lessened. The rough-looking ship circled the far ring of local space, until they finally came upon a large asteroid with a massive crater, which looked man-made. That's definitely it, but it looks like it's been completely cleared of debris already. I can barely tell there used to be a huge outpost there. It's strange, like the Alliance is covering something, but it was an Ascendancy outpost. Just then, the scanners picked up the signature of a large vessel heading toward them from on-planet, and as it approached, it made contact with the rickety ship. 3 passengers exchanged concerned glances, then opened communications. Hello? My, aren't we a rash bunch? How far did you think you'd make it in such a distinct vessel? Don't you realize that you are wanted across the entire system? A tractor beam caught the small ship in its pull, and slowly reeled it into the large military frigate that continued to approach. It belonged to the Free World Alliance. Back in the cold tundra of Animov on Ravina, in a large, high-security prison deep underground, a prison guard walked the dim gray halls down to one of the lowest levels. There he eventually stopped, outside of an occupied cell, and grinned. I just heard the most interesting bit of news, the guard jeered at the prisoner, who glared back at the guard. We just managed to capture more of your rebels from Dalsine, coming back to rescue their friend, it seems. He got the reaction he wanted from the prisoner. You're lying, the man said.
There's no way they'd be stupid enough to do that. What do you hope to get by making up such garbage?
Oh, it's true, the jailer replied with a chuckle. And you'd get to see them for yourself, if you weren't about to be executed. The jailer continued to laugh as he walked back down the hall, then sneered, "Just a few more hours, Bowhawk." Hawk couldn't believe what he heard, but he knew there was no reason for the jailer to make up such a story. It must have been true. Man, can a guy catch a break? I appreciate the sentiment, you guys, he thought. But now it looks like there will be a change of plans. I guess I'm gonna have to spring all you out of here, too.